My sister Sarah walks at night. She often goes outside and walks around the farm. 2 nights ago, I looked outside and saw her walking at a brisk pace, holding Father's hatchet. It wasn't the first time she has butchered our cattle. We might have sent her away if not for the truth. She is asleep when she goes walking at night. Father has been gone for 5 years, and Mother cries most of the time. She cries because of Sarah. It was 1:30 after midnight when I awoke. I know she opened my door, as I shut it when I sleep. She often walks around with knives and sharp farm tools. When I walked down the stairs, I saw her. She was sitting in Father's chair, clutching a knife. She was looking at me. I took a single step towards her, and she sprung up to her feet and took 2 paces towards me, and then stopped. I said her name, Sarah, and told her I would take her back to bed. She said to me, "I am not sleeping." I then asked her if she was not asleep, then why is she holding a knife? She spoke, "Because I want to kill you and Mother." I told her she was ill and needed to put the knife back before Mother catches her. She turned around and walked outside. I didn't leave the house that night. When Mother and I found Sarah in the morning, she had stabbed herself in the eye and was dead, face down outside the barn. I'm worried about Mother. She hasn't walked at night since stabbing Father 5 years ago. She says she was asleep when she did it. My mother never sleeps.
My name is Andrew. I wish to speak of an event that took place 11 years ago, when I was 10 years old. At the time of this event, I was still back east with my Uncle Thomas. I moved in with my uncle when my parents died, and the home in which Thomas lived has always scared me. It was an estate surrounded by cornfields and grapevines, and during the night, the darkness was overwhelming. Uncle Thomas did not help matters any. He would drink and ridicule me. My bedroom was on the 2nd floor of the house, and the window within my bedroom faced the back cornfield. Uncle Thomas would often leave me alone in the house. He would drink with his work associates, and sometimes be absent for days. I didn't mind him being gone during the daylight hours, but at night it was typical for me to remain in my bedroom. The only problem was that my Uncle Thomas refused to buy curtains for my window, so during the night moonlight would keep my room and the cornfield illuminated. I would often look outside and look down on the corn. The event I wish to speak of took place on one such night, with the moon lighting my bedroom and the field. I was unable to sleep and looked out my window. Down in the corn I noticed that Uncle Thomas had put up another scarecrow. There were 2 already, but this third was very frightening. I could not see it very clearly, but it seemed as though Thomas had positioned him to be looking up at my window. It was so disturbing that I could not look at it for long. I returned to my sack and attempted to sleep. The day that followed, I rode my bicycle and waited for Uncle Thomas to return, but he did not. That night, the same occurrence. I had forgotten about the new scarecrow, and it littered my body with goosebumps when I saw it. I returned to my sack once again, and a short time later, I heard Uncle Thomas return home. I was very relieved, and in the morning I expected to see him downstairs, but he was not there. When I opened his bedroom door, he was absent. In the midst of my confusion, not 5 minutes later, I heard the front door to the house open. I met Uncle Thomas in the kitchen and asked him where he'd gone. He then explained to me that he had been hunting and drinking with his friends, and ridiculed me for not paying any attention to his telling me the first time, 3 days ago. I then told Thomas that I heard him return home last night in the night, and he assured me that he'd just arrived now, and that it was not him who came inside the house. The matter of the frightening scarecrow came up afterwards, and Uncle Thomas told me he had not put up a third scarecrow.
Again? Again? Those were the words I heard Daddy saying while looking down at one of the chickens. It was completely ripped open. Blood was everywhere. This had been the 4th chicken this week. I was just a boy at the time, but I remember Daddy shouting out that he would gut the beast that was eating our chickens. Daddy unraveled some wire and emptied out some cans of beans. He wired the cans around the perimeter of the coop. The beast would come, and when it hit the wire, the cans would sound. True to his plan, late that night, we heard the sound of the cans falling and clanking. The beast was outside. Daddy took the rifle, threw on his boots, and ran out there to face whatever beast was slaughtering those chickens. I watched from the window as I saw Daddy run out through the field and then stop dead. I ran outside to see what it was. When I approached, I looked at him. His mouth was open, with one lip curled in to create a face of disgust. It was no beast. It was a man. A skin and bones man with long hair and a beard, not wearing clothes. He was hunched over a chicken. He was holding the mutilated bird above his head and letting the blood drain into his mouth. I had never seen something so terrifying, not even 30 years later as I write this. Daddy lifted the rifle and yelled, "You need to leave." I don't know if it was on purpose, but Daddy shot the gun and almost hit the man. The man quickly got up and looked at my daddy. A bloody smile he gave, and then ran away. He never came back, but I wonder, why was he eating the chickens? Maybe some sort of satanic ritual. Maybe he was ill. Or maybe he just liked the taste of blood.
I'm a curious man. I always have been. I once asked my grandfather before he passed if he could tell me about his grandfather. The story he told me chilled my blood. His grandfather was an author named John. He was married to my great-great-grandmother Abigail. They had 3 children together. Shortly after having their last baby, Abigail began feeling ill. The town's doctor made a visit to their home. He was saddened to inform John that his wife was dying. They spent their last remaining days together, but the fever overcame her, and she passed away in her sleep, surrounded by her loving husband and their 3 small children. John slipped into a depression. The only thing he wanted was to speak to her one last time. The only thing he could think to do was to write her a letter. So he sat at his desk one evening, lit a candle and placed it in the candle holder next to him for light. He began to write his letter to her. "My dearest Ab," as soon as he wrote the first 2 letters of her name, a gust of wind blew the candle out. He then struck a match and relit the candle and prepared to write again. As soon as he wrote the next letters of her name, another gust of wind blew out the candle. This time John started becoming frightened because all the doors and windows were closed tight. His hands began to tremble as he took another match from the box. He lit the match. Through the mirror hanging over his desk, he saw Abigail standing behind him. I do not believe in ghosts myself, but my grandfather told me that until the day his grandfather John passed, he would still sit at the desk every night with a candle burning and write her name. When John was asked if she would appear every night, his face would become white.
The lady that my mother asked to watch my sisters and I was not well. She would arrive at our flat at dark while my mother was gone and watch us until she returned. She would always insist on playing hide and go seek. My sisters and I love this game, but not with the lights off. She would insist that all the lights are off. This night, it was first my turn to find them. I found my sisters first. They were downstairs hiding together under the table. The lady was hiding somewhere upstairs. I was too afraid to go look after the last visit. She came out of the darkness and grabbed me. When I screamed, she put her fingers down my throat. Me and my sisters waited in the library until Mother returned. She was very upset with the lady. She could not find her either. Mother decided that she had gone, but I was afraid she was still here. As I lay in bed, I began to fall asleep. But then I opened my eyes and she was there, standing at the edge of my bed. As I screamed, she put her fingers down my throat and my eyes poured tears.